Beautiful Chattahoochee bass.
Hello there, and welcome to the channel, everyone. Today we're fishing an upland stream in the Chattahoochee River drainage because we're targeting the Chattahoochee bass. There are 7 upland species of black bass, and in the last 4 videos we've seen the Redeye Bass, the Cahaba bass, the Tallapoosa bass, and the warrior bass. Chattahoochee bass are only native to the Chattahoochee River drainage above the fall line, and there are only 3 native species of black bass in the Chattahoochee River drainage. The Chattahoochee bass, which is the upland species, the shoal bass, and the largemouth bass. 3 non-native species of black bass have been introduced to the Chattahoochee River drainage. Alabama bass were first documented in the Chattahoochee River in 1970 and have since spread throughout the drainage all the way to Lake Eufaula. Smallmouth bass were illegally introduced to the Chattahoochee River below Morgan Falls Dam around 20 years ago, but you won't find a catchable population of smallmouth bass there because for over 20 years there's been widespread hybridization between the illegally introduced smallmouth bass, the native shoal bass, and the other 2 non-native species in that part of the drainage, the Alabama bass and the spotted bass. Spotted bass were first documented above the fall line of the Chattahoochee River drainage in 1968. Today, the Chattahoochee bass is locally extinct throughout most of its former range, but we have found one of those special areas, maybe the last one, that has not been heavily impacted by land use changes or the illegal introduction and spread of non-native species of black bass. So I hope you liked the video, and thanks for watching.
Oh yeah, look at that one, boys. Wow. That is amazing. That's probably the nicest one I've caught in a while. Beautiful Chattahoochee bass. Amazing. Get that guy back in the water. Such a beautiful fish. That is probably my favorite fish. Just their colors, and they're so rare. You really have to be in an area that is really prime habitat with very few Alabama bass. if those Alabama bass, if you have a lot of those non-native Alabama bass or spotted bass, you're going to have a lot of hybrids. You'll have some fish that superficially resemble the Chattahoochee bass, but they're more than likely going to be hybrids, and that's just sad but true most of the time. That fish was holding right in this seam right here. We got a bedrock shoal there, and you can see the foam on the surface here. There's kind of a back eddy. That fish was holding right there in about 4 maybe 5 feet of water right there on the edge of this seam. And I missed 3 or 4 bites on 3 or 4 successive casts there. I don't know if it was the same fish. That last fish was a male because it sprayed milt. I don't believe that fish was spawning. That's typically water temperature. You know, they'll spray that milt around the spawn even when they're not spawning, and it's mostly a water temperature thing, or it's more than likely triggered by water temperature. Well, I made 1 cast with the worm. My battery died and I made 1 cast, and I caught like a 9-inch Chattahoochee bass. So I left the fish in the water. I left the fish hooked in the water while I changed batteries. You know, I just left the worm hook in the upper jaw, and it just managed to free itself. So you did not see the largest one that I've caught so far because I was stupid. And you may have noticed I'm in a different kayak. It's the same model, same brand or make. It's an ocean kayak caper, but this is a newer model. My other one that I'd had for about 7 years died, so I had to replace it. So I spent a couple of weeks looking at the latest and greatest kayaks, and finally just settled on this one. Did not see anything better, honestly, for what I do. And I'm going to make a separate video about that. About this kayak's been around for over 20 years, and it hasn't changed a whole lot in that time. It was actually around before they started making fishing kayaks. So this technically is not a fishing kayak, and I really wouldn't recommend anyone buy this kayak, but I'm going to make a separate video about why I'm still using this kayak in case anyone is interested. I get an email, or you know, every now and then someone will ask me about the kayak I'm using, so I'll just make a video about it just to kind of explain why I'm still using a kayak that's been around for over 20 years, and the features this kayak has that I really like. So I'll talk about all of that in a separate video. See these those egg cases right there? Those are from a DOBSONFLY, and the larvae you've probably heard of. They're called HELLGRAMMITEs, but that's where the HELLGRAMMITEs, they hatch from those egg cases right there. The adult DOBSONFLY, the female, lays those usually at night, and each one of those clusters is probably from a single adult DOBSONFLY. And the DOBSONFLY, it has a really interesting life cycle.
So the female DOBSONFLY lays these egg clusters at night, usually between May and August, and each egg mass has between 300 and 3,000 eggs. The eggs in the egg mass are covered with a clear fluid that dries to a white color that resembles bird excrement. Now I have to say, I've never seen DOBSONFLY eggs this low to the water. They're usually 6 to 12 feet above the water, and that's so they don't get washed away. DOBSONFLY eggs are usually laid on tree leaves that hang over the water, but they'll also use the base of the tree, tree branches, logs, rocks, even decks and bridges. After 1 to 2 weeks, the eggs hatch at night, and the larvae fall into the water and float downstream until they reach some kind of rock or wood cover. The aquatic larvae, also known as a HELLGRAMMITE, live and grow in the stream for up to 3 years. HELLGRAMMITEs live under rock and wood cover in the stream, where they prey on other aquatic invertebrates and even small fish. And a little known fact, HELLGRAMMITEs can breathe in and out of the water, and that's because they have to leave the water for the next stage of their life cycle. So after 1 to 3 years in the stream, HELLGRAMMITEs crawl out of the water to pupate. Some people think this is triggered by thunder, but I'm not aware of any science or study that actually supports this. Anyway, the HELLGRAMMITE crawls out of the water looking for a rock, a log, or some other type of debris that keeps the substrate moist. Once they find a suitable area, they dig a hole with their legs and mouth parts, and after 1 to 2 weeks in the ground, the HELLGRAMMITE sheds its exoskeleton to become a pupa. The pupal stage takes another 1 to 2 weeks, and after that, the adult emerges and digs its way out of the substrate. Adult DOBSONFLYs only live 3 to 10 days, so most experts believe they do not feed. Instead, they use this time to mate, lay eggs, and the life cycle starts all over again.
Most people have probably never seen or heard of a DOBSONFLY, but they have heard of the HELLGRAMMITE, especially if you fish very many creeks or rivers. You've probably heard of several companies make a soft plastic HELLGRAMMITE, which mimics the DOBSONFLY larva. Oh yeah. Ooh. It's okay. It's okay. There's a little brown one. Sometimes they have this brown coloration. That's really, really cool. Beautiful Chattahoochee bass. You can see the orange, bright orange, reddish pigment there in the leading edge of the soft dorsal, the anal, and the caudal fin margins. And you've also got lots of spots in the soft dorsal, anal, and the caudal fin. This is a really beautiful fish. See you, buddy, on the old Texas rig. Finesse worm. Little guy. That's what the little ones look like. Beautiful. Oh, sorry, buddy. Sitting right on the edge of that back eddy. He was right under the boat. Little light colored one. Beautiful Chattahoochee bass. See you, buddy. This is rhododendron, by the way, that's blooming all these white flowers. And that's one of the native plants that is really prevents a lot of helps prevent erosion along the stream bank. And what happens is when people move in or build a house along the creek or river in this part of the state, they want to cut all that down so they can see the river. Well, the next thing you know, there's just crazy erosion. Basically, where you have fewer houses and more native plants, there's less sand in the stream, and you have more native species like these Chattahoochee bass, upland species of black bass especially. They, well, this guy, he ate somebody's lure, unfortunately, and I'm just gonna have to cut it as close as I can, buddy. Sorry, can't get that out. I wasn't losing that one. That's another nice one. Really pretty. Oh my gosh. So sorry, dude. That's the biggest one of the day, I think. See how red those fins are? That's how you know you got a real one. That, and look at all the spots in the soft dorsal and the anal fin and the caudal fin. That is a beautiful fish. All right, that is almost a double-digit Chattahoochee bass. It's almost 10 inches. Of course, the mouth is open. See you, buddy.